All right, I guess we'll get started here. Great to have you guys with us. Welcome here. My name is Adam McAllister, so it's my first time hosting these meetings, but good to see you guys. And pretty much tonight we'll have a couple of people share a little bit. Charlene is going to share about one of our principles, principle number 3. And Dave is going to share about principle number 4. And we'll also have opportunities for some questions, just so that you guys can share questions you might have about anything really about the principles, but yeah, whatever comes to mind. You can also type your questions in the chat box if you prefer, just to ask them that way, and then I'll read them out and we'll answer them. But yeah, great to have you guys here, and I'll let Charlene take it away.
Thank you, Adam. The Keystone Party principles will be constructed by committees formed with our principles as our foundation. Each town hall, we will be reviewing the Keystone Party principles. Tonight, I'm going to be addressing our 3rd principle, the principle of social responsibility. We believe in supporting persons unable to care for themselves, and that such support is funded by the province, delivered at city, municipal, or town levels, and provides the opportunity for recipients to earn income as an incentive to improve their situation. What does this mean? When defining social responsibility, we look towards how it relates to our province. This pertains to sustainable development in our communities, including health and welfare. To achieve sustainability, we need to take into account who lives in the community and what the needs are. We need to assess the impact of the decisions made by the various levels of government. Our goal is to create a balance between protecting health in our communities, economic growth, welfare of the people, and the environment. Actions or decisions that cause harm to a society or the environment are socially irresponsible. Remember the proverb, give the man a fish and feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and feed him for life. Government support programs need to be transitional in nature to reflect the concept of it's better to give a hand up, not a handout. In order for our communities to become more self-sufficient and sustainable, they need employment incentives, apprenticeship programs, education, childcare, housing, support for families and individuals with extended healthcare needs, improvements to our child welfare system, and support for our seniors. We believe that by working with municipalities and with the culture and diversity of our communities, we can create programs and funding directed to the needs of each region. One example of such a program from previous years was the Graduated Wage Support Program. For those that aren't familiar with this, it was a government program that was funded that gave businesses an incentive to hire individuals with little training and little work experience. The government would pay 50% of the wage for a predetermined training period and then 25% for a set period, at the end of which it would drop to 0. In the present, benefits of such a program can reduce an individual's need for social assistance, increase their self-esteem, provide incentive for a business to hire someone with minimal experience, result in less cost to the company with an increase in productivity, helping businesses to grow and communities to prosper. With changing anything, it causes a ripple effect. With increased employment opportunities, childcare spaces will be in demand. Programs and subsidies for single parents or low income will be required across Manitoba. Some may say that there's a lack of qualified caregivers. My suggestion would be to have a ratio of certificate holding employees to employees that have minimal experience but are willing to take some courses, and programs to give incentives for new daycares to open in high need areas. Let's at this time think about the people in our communities. So many have suffered hardship through the loss of loved ones, income loss. In addition, some have suffered abuse resulting in compromised mental health, families torn apart, and children removed. It will take time for families, communities, and businesses to recover from the last 2 years. Government programs need to be geared towards restoring our sense of community. When we look to our child welfare system, we realize the need for improvement through proper programs to keep children with extended family or proper placement for those that have no option. Each child has a special situation, and priority should be to minimize the long-term effects on the child by proper placement, counseling, and accountability from the Child Welfare Agency on their plan for this child. Once a child in care reaches 18 years of age, assistance is often required to transition them into independence. Improvements to employment and education programs should be reviewed to become more effective. Our children are our future, and it's a priority to protect them, keep them safe, and help them in achieving their potential and reduce the need of the financial government assistance later on. Next, we direct our attention to education. This has become a topic of conversation for many. In order for society to grow and prosper, individuals need to have the opportunity to obtain an education no matter where they live in Manitoba. There are school buses for children up to the age of grade 12, but what happens after? Education facilities for trades, certificates, and diplomas can be miles away. If you don't have access to a significant amount of income, the cost of housing and travel can create hardship and make it impossible to achieve, resulting in the only option of a limited variety of correspondence courses or no education. The provincial government, in conjunction with municipalities, can assess the services available in the region and collaborate what resources and improvements are required to give all people an opportunity to achieve a higher standard of education. The way to help those in need is to provide opportunities to better their lives. Find out what roadblocks are and come up with the solutions. After the last couple of years, there's been many roadblocks created. We are starting to recover, but this is a process. Investing money into programs to give people a hand up to reach their potential will sustain long-term. Giving a handout is only temporary. It's a temporary Band-Aid that shows little to no results in creating a strong, prosperous Manitoba. An important area of social responsibility is the health and care of individuals. We have the responsibility of ensuring that there is adequate care for all people in a timely manner, and that our seniors are respected and appreciated for their contributions to building our province and fighting for our freedom. All regions of our province should have accessible health care, meeting the needs of their communities. Many regions are not equipped with proper healthcare services for their people. Each region should be assessed and reviewed. Part of the solution is maintaining and increasing healthcare staff, providing salaries with contracts and respecting them for their sacrifices. Bridging communication between people and their representatives are key. The process to increase our sustainability and maintain balance involves getting our municipalities and the people in the communities participating in deciding what's needed in their region. They are the ones that best know what is needed and the possible solutions that they would like to see. Programs should be easily accessible for municipalities and people to apply for. The Keystone Party recognizes the importance of social responsibility in the communities of our province, and our policies will reflect this. We will form committees that will assist in the construction of the policies, which will be approved by our members at our first convention. The process begins with meeting the members of your community and hearing the concerns that people are expressing and changes they would like to see. We are here to work for you and change what government is. Please refer to our website to send an email with your request for a meet and greet in your area. Thank you.
That is fantastic. Thank you, Charlene. Yeah, really great. So a couple questions that came in. First one is directed towards Charlene. What is your background as far as work experience, and what is your role in the party right now?
Okay, well, right now I am the Chief Financial Officer. My background education is in accounting, and I've had various jobs with the provincial government, with federal taxation. I've worked in the school system. I've worked with having a foster child. I have worked with many community organizations. Let me see. I've had many jobs over the years. I've owned my own company. I owned my own company for about 5 years. It was a machining company in the city of Winnipeg. So yeah, I'm sure there's
Awesome.
more, but I just, yeah.
No, it's great. Okay, another question is, so if this is a grassroots party, how do you decide which areas you will focus on, like which services, etc.? Does anyone want to answer that? I guess I would say,
Sure.
okay, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, you go for it.
Yeah, just to introduce, if you don't know me, I'm just the leader of the party, Kevin Friesen. So it's a good question. How do you decide which areas? And I think that's a real challenge that our government has right now, is because the way it looks like government is working now is they are giving the money to where they think they will get the most votes. It's actually much easier in a grassroots party because you're actually putting money to where you think that the grassroots are screaming the loudest. And what I don't want to make this sound like is that the squeakiest wheel is going to get the grease. What's going to actually happen is as we make the provincial government smaller and we give more power to the areas and to the constituencies and eventually to the municipalities, I think they will actually decide where is best to serve that. So what's happening right now is we find that to be socially responsible, they are actually giving money. Perhaps in my town is Manitou. They're giving money in Manitou that fits the same, what they think is the same needs as is in Winnipeg. And the fact of the matter is the needs that are in Manitou and are in Winkler and are in Steinbach or in Brandon or in Thompson are a lot different than what are in Winnipeg. And I think that's what they're trying to do now, and that's why they're centralizing everything, is because they're trying to fit the needs of the whole province in one big stroke with the brush. And I think I hope that answers the question. So that's where the services will go. That's where some of this money will go, where it's needed most. And the only way that we know where it's needed most is if the grassroots speak.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Also, I would like to add to that.
For sure.
The priorities will actually be picked in consultation with everybody from the grassroots up through the constituency association to the provincial council, which has representatives from every constituency. And the provincial council will recommend the priorities to the actual government.
Mm-hmm.
So that is how the grassroots will actually be the ones picking the priorities on what we tackle first and that. So I mean, it's what we're trying to do is government for the people, of the people, as opposed to government that is representing, or our representatives are representing government to the people.
Yeah, I think this is maybe a good time to add as well. If you have friends and family, I mean, people that are naturally attracted to this idea that we've come up with, the Keystone Party, are conservatives. But it's when you look at this idea that we just kind of shared, and then this question brought out, that actually attracts a lot of people from the NDP party to us too. When they realize that social responsibility is something that is on our radar, something that is important to us, something that we can actually deliver into your community because the grassroots are speaking. I'll be honest with you right now, it's just as easy to sell this party to an NDP person as to a person who is worried that this is going to split the vote on the conservative side. And that's the beauty of this, is and that's how I think we'll be successful, is because we're going to get some from both sides.
Awesome. There's a couple more questions in the chat, but I also want to just give an opportunity if anyone here wants to just turn on their mics or ask a question that that you have, either based on something that Charlene shared or anything else. Do any of you guys have questions that you want to ask at this time? If not, that's totally cool. I have a couple more questions from the chat that I would just go ahead and ask right now. One question came in asking if Maverick Party was successful at becoming the federal opposition to the Liberals/Conservatives. How would your relationship work with them? And I think that's a great question. I think for me personally, I think that we have a really good relationship with a party like that, because they're very much focused on sovereignty at lower levels of government. So like making the provinces more independent and more sovereign. And I think that's very much a focus of ours is empowering individuals and acknowledging that individuals are sovereign and that communities are sovereign, so to speak, and that provinces are as well. So the power exercised at the lower levels is always better than power exercised at a higher level, like federal level, for example. So I think we would have a very good relationship with a party like Maverick Party, as well as any other party. And I think we want to, I think we'd be very much able to work with them. Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
Well, that being said, we have no affiliation with any party as far
That's true.
as federally. Yeah. And we just really feel that's important, especially now, because this is the only grassroots party, true grassroots party that's in Canada right now. And so a lot of people have mixed us up with PPC. A lot of people have mixed us up with some of the other parties. Not that we don't agree with any of them. Some of the people on our steering committee agree with PPC. Some of the people agree with different parties. We have no affiliation with any party, but we are willing to work with all of them.
Exactly. Well said.
Well, kind of hard to say that we would work with the Prime Minister, but we would do our best.
We'd have to.
Thanks. That was great answers, guys. Thank you.
And one more I'll take right now. So the question here is, what is a way you could help incentivize people who are on assistance to move towards self-sufficiency? That's a very good question.
Well, I think that basically what it is, it's allow people to earn more money and to work their way up. Also encourage training, encourage them to build themselves up and to actually better themselves. We have a system right now that basically encourages people to stay on assistance. And part of the reason for that, I think, is that when the government feels that when there's people dependent on them, then they are easier to control. And the whole system is very much into controlling the people that are on assistance. And so I think it's a matter of, like Charlene was saying before, about the hand up, not a handout. And the problem that we have in our province is that we have people on assistance, and it's generational. I mean, I know of families that are living in my community that's 3 generations, and some there's 4 generations on assistance, and it's just one after the other after the other, and it's just easy. So I believe it has everything to do with, you know, giving them a hand up, but it's also got to do with our education and all that. We have to motivate people to better themselves. And because in some homes that's not happening. So our education system should quit worrying about certain things and teaching them left-leaning politics. They should stop teaching left-leaning politics in school and start teaching things that will actually help people to get ahead. They need to teach everyone how to balance a checkbook. They need to teach everyone how to fill out income tax. There is many courses that can be put in that actually will help people and help the economy and help our province, rather than just keeping doing and teaching worthless stuff.
Can I say something too?
Yeah.
I also noticed with social assistance too, is that, for instance, if you're in school, you decide you're going to go to post-secondary education, and you find that you can't afford to live, you can't afford to pay your rent. You know, for instance, I live in a rural area, and if my children are to go to the city to go to school, I'll need to front that bill, or they need to try to find a job that's going to cover their rent. Problem is, if they go to school and now they realize they can't pay their rent, assistance will not take them on. They'll say, well, you're already in school. You should have applied before you went to school. And I think that's where the system's a little bit broken, because I wouldn't be trying to apply if I had the money, right? And so I think to promote that these young people are in school to begin with, and now can't afford to stay in the school system in their post-secondary education, why are we not helping them? Because they're going to be coming out of that system and getting very good paying jobs and not ending up in the system. So our system is broken. There's loopholes in this. And, you know, another thing that we should be doing is also giving incentive to people that are on assistance. They have no reason to want to get off. You know, especially when people were getting this CERB. If I'm getting more money from the government to stay home, why go to work? You know, and so this is also what needs to be done is, I mean, I understand that social assistance does give the bare minimum of money. So I'm not actually referring dollar-wise to assistance, but I'm referring to the fact that they don't have the incentive to want to get off. Now, if social assistance would give them that incentive, some reason that they would want to get training and get more education, we can help you with this, we can do this for you, we can, you know, but again, people don't always know what's available, and the system needs to be reviewed.
Yeah, and I think another big part of it is isolation. Is if people like Dave was talking about are trapped in this generational system, or they're isolated, you know, there's less motivation. But if you can help them be part of a community where they can feel like there's something part of something bigger, you know, like a church or some sort of other kind of group, you know, then they might actually be more encouraged to improve their lives and that they can help others and that kind of thing. So I think isolation is really tricky to get out of as well. And especially if you're on assistance or something like that. So, okay. Dave, would you like to go ahead and talk about principle number 4?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
The principle of servant-based leadership. We believe that the government of Manitoba, the civil service, and political parties are accountable to the people of Manitoba for responsible governance. We believe that our elected representatives must be free to vote as they see fit on any issues or legislations coming before the legislature. We believe that elected representatives are the people's voice, accountable to the people they represent, and must be respected and treated as equals in our party and in the legislature. What this means is basically that anyone elected for the Keystone Party will be the servant of the people in their riding. Their only job is to represent their people to the legislature, not represent the legislature to the people. When there is a vote on anything, we will not be having a party whip who will say you also all have to vote the way the leader wants to vote. Every member will vote according to their constituency, which means, yes, there will be some times where there will be something brought forward by the party and it's a party bill that is brought forward in the legislature, and like a motion sponsored by the party, and it may fail, but that won't mean that the government fails. That will mean that that particular item fails. And what we want to do is we actually want to set a higher standard for the way the legislature works. We would hope that all parties would follow that so that all parties would have their representatives being servants of their people. Governments are not there to govern over the people. It's to govern for the people. And there's a big difference. The people need to be the government over the government. They govern over the government, and we need to do what the people need. And it's not necessarily always going to be popular, because we have to take into consideration the whole province. For instance, a lot of times, the only thing that our governments in Manitoba have basically looked at is either the unions and doing what's good for the unions, what the unions are pushing them for in the city. They look only at what's good for Winnipeg, not what's good for the rest of the province. The North has been very much forgotten over the years, and rules are brought in by people in Winnipeg that know nothing about the North. And they're put forward by people who know nothing about the North. They're put forward by people who don't even know what a farmer is, let alone know anything about agriculture. So we need to have equal representation across the province. In our party, the constituency associations, the provincial council will represent by riding, not by population. So there will be a say. Every riding will have a say, even if you have someone that's not in government as your MLA. So it's just a totally different concept of what we're doing. But basically, if we are all servants of the people, we will get back good governance. We will get back government who is accountable to the people. Right now, we have in our province zero accountability. MLAs that are on the government side won't even answer questions. And I mean, I know our MLA here in the Swan River riding, the MLA in the Dauphin riding, people tell me they haven't even been able to get a hold of him for the last 2 years. He will not return phone calls. He will not return emails, nothing. Our MLA here basically will never answer a question. And I mean, it's horrible. That's not why we elected them. So we want to be a party that is accountable to the people. And we want to bring our government to be accountable, bring our civil service to actually realize that they are servants of the people. They are not servants of the government. They are servants of the people. And the attitude of civil servants to the people has to be that they are servants. And I've been in business for over 40 years. And my whole thing has always been, no matter, and I've been in a few different businesses, and my whole thing was customer service. And no matter what you do, no matter what we do, any of us, it doesn't matter if you work for a large corporation, if you work for the government, we're all in the thing of serving the customer. And whether the customer is paying us directly, as in a small business, or indirectly in the form of a farmer who plants crops and actually doesn't meet the customers, but he's in the customer service business because he has to produce the crops that the people want. He has to produce the quality that the people want. And if he doesn't produce the crops that the people want and the quality the people want, he can't sell his crops. So our government officials, our MLAs, premier, the whole civil service, right from the home care worker up to the deputy minister and the ministers, have to all realize that their number one job is serving the people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dave. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to, or any, not even just questions, does anyone have any comments or or things that they would like to ask or say at this time?
One thing I'd like to add as the leader of this ship, I'll call it. For those of you who know me, or maybe on the call or watching this after the fact, I don't mind confrontation, and I don't mind arguing about things. And when I play hockey, I don't even mind the odd fight. But what I'm learning from this party is that, and what they're teaching me, I guess I could say, is that it's what we're planning to do in the legislature is definitely revolutionary. If we're the opposition, we plan on being the opposition. If we are leading this thing from the, let's say we're the third party in power, we plan to operate the way it was planned to, or the way it was meant to operate. Right now, we have no opposition in Manitoba. Right now, we have no leadership in Manitoba. Right now, we have a bunch of people in the House that ask questions, and it's no different on a federal level either. It's people asking questions, and every single one of them trying to say things that will be impressive on CBC television or CTV television during a broadcast later on, or maybe on the web later on. And what my mentors, these people who stand with me on the steering committee, I have a few other mentors that are working with me as well. What they are teaching us, us as a group, is that we need to change what government is. That's our motto. And the way we do that is by doing our job for you, the people of Manitoba. And I think that attitude in itself will be totally different. And so those people who think that I was a person that just wanted to raise hell, or to do something that was against the other person all the time, there's going to be times where people who are on the other side of the political spectrum are going to say, well, why are they working with us in this? And why are they not working with us in this? Well, that is the job of government, to speak for your people. And that's something that hasn't happened since I've been in watching anything to do with politics. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's the way it was always supposed to be, and that's the way it's going to be if you vote for us.
So one question that came up was, how are you going to prevent there being excessive strife if members are allowed to vote different ways from, let's say, a government introduced bill? Or how are you going to prevent people losing confidence or trust that the government can operate functionally?
I think the biggest thing is respect. We have to respect one another and respect our views and work together. And which means generally it's not going to be everybody voting every which way. It's going to be people thinking and having good reason for what you bring up. Don't just bring something forward just to bring something forward. And I don't think there will be excessive strife, because if you live in a culture of mutual respect, then everyone will take other people's ideas and treat them with respect. And that's something that we have really gotten away from in the last 5-10 years. It has been really bad, because somehow the parties think they all have to have an absolute united voice. And the opposition thinks that they just have to be against everything. And if, you know what, I mean, once you're elected, if there's the opposition should be trying to help govern also, not just spewing out against everything. I believe very deeply that when we hire someone to represent us in our ridings, and that's our MLA, that MLA's job is not just to, if they're in the opposition, just to oppose everything. That MLA's job is to help govern. And that is the job that we gave them, not just to be against everything, It's to help govern, which means come up with ideas, put your ideas forward, not necessarily only in legislation, but instead of just saying, well, we're against this, or you're doing a terrible job in this, say, you know what, can we help you to make this bill better so that it can pass? You know, let's look at it at this side of it, and it's to help govern, not just to be against each other. So I think a culture of respect would go a long way.
Okay, awesome. I think another thing to add is that having the government not whip to vote a certain way means that the bills have to be a lot tighter and better crafted and understandable, not just by the MLAs and their legal teams, but by the public. Because if they're not well written, then the public's going to hold their MLAs accountable to vote against a bad bill, for instance. So it actually means that the legislation has to be a lot better and stronger for the people. You can't just throw a whole bunch of garbage into a bill and just expect it's going to pass. So it actually keeps the government a lot stronger and means that they have to pass really strong legislation.
Accountability.
Yeah. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, if you want to just unmute yourselves and ask a question or make a comment or just chat, you know, we'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, I'll chime in here then. My MLA is Greg Despot out of Shoal Lake there, and I really gave it to him a few times by email, but the lockdown measures, which were just really the worst public policy that I've ever seen in the whole history of Canada. But he just kept saying, we're following the advice of the experts. And I say to him, well, anybody that would come up with the stupid rules that Brent Rusin has certainly can't be any expert. I mean, some of the things that he has come up with were just ridiculous. At one point last spring, when we went golfing at the local golf course here, we had to go around the golf course by ourselves. Now, nobody actually did that. Once they got to hole number 2, which is outside of the clubhouse, they joined forces. But the rest of the way, except for number 9, when they were inside of the clubhouse again, come in singly, but it was all just a show for nothing. So I told Greg Nesbitt that his job was to represent us to the government rather than the other way around, but I don't think he gets it. And I would guess that the rest of the government MLAs are in the same boat.
Yeah, it seems like that's how our system is actually designed, but the parties are built in a way that goes against that system and that prevents MLAs from being accountable, and MPs for that matter, from being accountable to their constituents. The parties themselves are structured against that way that the system, I guess it's the Westminster system, but it's really not working as it's designed to right now. So I guess that's
just
what
to
we're
add,
gonna do.
and just to add to that, I think there are a lot of good people that are trying to make the province run properly, and I think there are some good MLAs out there. The problem is if they're a backbencher, they could listen to you all you want. They could actually be the best listening MLA, but the problem is the party has whipped them, number 1. And number 2, if they're on the back bench, they might get a question during question period once in a blue moon. And so they really don't have much of a say in what goes on. And the problem with that is the only way they can get to the front bench is by brown nosing and by getting their ducks in the same row that the premier or the leader of the party has. And that's not the way this party can work. It's the Constitution spells out very clearly that won't happen.
Also, Don, you talked about the golf course there, and I call it virtue signaling. This whole thing of the masks and social distancing and all of that. There are so many people just totally willing to virtue signal, but when it comes to their own lives, they broke the rules all the time. And I'll guarantee you that Brent Rusin broke the rules a lot of the time too. But in front of the cameras, and I mean, how many videos have we all seen where a politician is going up to speak and they're backstage, and as they're walking out, somebody from a different angle has a cell phone, and they're busy putting their mask on as they're walking onto the stage, so that everybody sees that they're wearing their mask. And I mean, this has happened. Like, I've seen hundreds of videos of politicians in Canada doing it. I'm the reeve of the municipality of Ethelbert, and I don't wear a mask, and I haven't worn a mask. And I got a hassle from my council, and I said, you guys have never stopped anybody going into your homes. You have had parties in your homes, and yet in here you want me to virtue signal and wear a mask? I said, no, I am who I am. And until someone can actually prove to our government here in our community that there is a reason to be doing this, then we can recommend to our people. But as far as I'm concerned, government has no right to tell me I have to wear a face diaper. Government has no right to tell me that and break the actual law and prescribe any medical treatment on anybody. They cannot force it. It's against the law here in our province. And what has happened here is been terrible, and our MLAs have not stood up. And I mean, our MLA is a backbencher also, and so is the one in the Dauphin riding, so is the one in your riding there in Shoal Lake. And but they can't. Kevin, what are you doing? But they can't speak up, or else they'll be kicked out. And that has been shown here in Manitoba. It's also been shown in Ontario, and yeah.
However, I don't want this to become ever our focus. I don't think that this is an anti-mask party. This is not an anti-vaccine party. This is a party for anybody with a voice in Manitoba. And the only people we don't, I say this often, the only people that we don't accept in this party is one that doesn't think that they have a genius inside them. Those people should not vote for us. I think anybody that has any sort of genius inside of them, those are the ones that we want to listen to. And so I don't want this to become a bashing session either, but yeah.
No,
I do echo what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I was going to do is our first principle is that we follow the Constitution of Canada. We follow our provincial constitution, and we follow the actual laws, not make it up as we go along. And that's what we stand for.
I agree.
Anybody else want to make a comment or say something, or? Question?
One question I had here that came up was, how can you afford to be fiscally responsible and socially responsible?
By being creative.
Yeah.
Being socially responsible does not mean giving away the farm all the time. Being socially responsible means doing what's right, and not necessarily what someone might like. My children would have probably liked lots of times if I just gave them as much money as they wanted to spend. And that would have probably been their opinion of socially responsible in my household. Instead, I was socially responsible that I supplied their needs, and they needed to go out and supply their wants when they were at home. And now that they're adults, they have to supply their needs and their wants. And yeah, I don't think.
And I think that too, the way you do that is that we give more power back to the people in specific areas rather than making a blanket program for the province. I think it's and as the government gets bigger, the easier way to operate that is just to make one big rule for everybody, one big paintbrush. And I mean, so many problems that we see happening is because the government has got too big. And so as leader of this party, I'm gonna keep it real simple. and tell you that making a smaller government solves so much. And I think that's how we do it.
Mhm.
All right. Anything else from anyone here? Just want to give a last chance before we finish up.
One thing I'll maybe mention here, so I travel around a lot, talk to a lot of people, and I mentioned this thing about giving power back to people. And one of the ways we're planning on doing that is by giving our municipalities more. And so many people are scared by that. And that is because they hate to see the way that their municipal government is acting right now. So sorry, Dave, but a lot of people do. Maybe you're doing a good job, but a lot of people don't think that their municipalities are doing a good job. What I can say is when a government starts talking about the two principles, especially that we were talking tonight, where they're and back to a thinking that they are working for the people. If we can bring that back to our municipalities as well, I think 90% of the time that people don't like what their municipalities are doing is because those municipalities are ruling over those people in that municipality and they're not listening to the people. And I think that's something that we have to, and I'm not saying that we make more red tape so that they have to do that. I think we remove the red tape and we remind them how government should work and how the municipality should work as well. That layer of government, I think, too, has to start realizing that you are working for the people. And I think there are some really good people in municipalities that have realized that and they are working for the people, but there are many throughout the province who maybe aren't working for the people. And every municipality has 1 or 3 or 5 of them.
We also, and what we're doing in our party is actually empowering the people to so that they realize that they are the ones that actually have the power. It's
Mhm.
not the government that has the power. It's the people that have the power. And our job is to, as in a municipal government, our job is to take care of what our responsibilities is and not get dragged into a whole bunch of stuff and make bigger government, because it seems, and I mean, this is something that constantly we as municipal governments have to look at, is it's almost as if it can very easily get into an unwieldy machine. And yeah, I mean, and money can go there and there and there and there, and the basics that the municipal government is for ends up being lost and not being taken care of. So, but empowering the people to realize that they are the ones with the power, will go a long way to ending up having better municipal governments too.
And one thing to think about is in every region, we're going to be having constituency associations. So as government, as provincial government, we'll be listening to the people in all the different areas. And if people are having, different issues with their municipalities, those things will be reported to us too. Because the idea here is that provincial and municipalities can work together for the people in their communities. While we would like to give more power to the municipality, we're not just saying we're just going to give it all to them and walk away. We're going to be working with them, and we'll be working with the people through constituency associations with having our meetings. We all want to work together. So if that clears up some stuff too.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate you being here and getting the opportunity to share with you guys and hear from you guys a little bit. So yeah, we'll end the meeting, but we hope to see you again soon and hope you have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.